um, growing up in the Midwest and in St. Louis, and then my music influences are kind of all over the world. It's I take in some influence of country, a little bit of rock, a bit of hip hop, and then I got into electronica and indie later on in life. But starting off, I basically just listened to whatever my parents had, as most people do. I remember really being into Funky Town by Lips Incorporated. I mean, I wore that tape out. And then when I was about 7, we moved to a real small rural area. And we couldn't afford satellite or anything like that. So and cable didn't go out to where we were at. And I mean, and you have to remember at the time, this is the 80s, so like satellites were the size of cars, and expensive as hell. My stepdad would go to his parents, my grandparents, in St. Louis, and over a weekend he would record like 8-hour tapes of a couple 8-hour tapes of MTV. So like when he would go back, he would take a new tape with him. So there was that. Yeah. So looking through one of the tapes, and Mars, M-A-R-R-S, did their version of Pump Up the Volume, which is a great classic hip-hop song. And I recommend that anybody who's ever been into scratch DJing watch that video or listen to that song. I actually have the single on vinyl I found later on. It really influenced me on beats and like, you know, scratching. But I living in rural, the only place to shop for music was Walmart. And if you realize in the 80s, that meant that every hip hop tape you got was censored, and that drives me fucking nuts, because I can't do the whole like the pause for a curse word should have been. So I was fortunate enough to have a couple of people that I knew in school who would record like tape to tape tapes. So I would have like tapes, and I'd have to listen to them in the living room with the headphones on, because my parents would have filleted me if I had let them hear half the lyrics to anything Ice-T. I really got into Public Enemy, and I loved how Terminator X, with using like scratching up and mixing up different, like, you know, old organ or like guitar and R&B hits, and would like mix it to her, like sound like a siren, and it's just like so intense, so raw, and I really loved that. And we moved back to St. Louis later on, and that was like when I started high school, was in St. Louis. So then I got into urban, but I was also listening to things were big, were Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and I'd been listening to REM since Out of Time, and I listened to like Out of Time, and Automatic for the people, and then Monster. And I really went back into their back catalog by getting Eponymous, and I fell in love with Peter Buck's style of guitar playing, the arpeggio, and I really try to use that in anything that I write guitar-wise. At least use some arpeggio, if not all. My favorite album of theirs is New Adventures in Hi-Fi, which has this desert quality to it, like almost like desert rock. And like I mean that eventually, of course, got me into things like Queens of the Stone Age, and now I started getting more into the Cult, which I admit I didn't really listen to them till relatively recent, and like, so embarrassingly enough, that part I can't claim that I was listening to them back in the 80s. Nope. As you can see, like all my influences come from. I was really into R&B when I was younger. Also, Boyz II Men and Bobby Brown, and then when I didn't put two and two together when Bobby Brown says, "Yo, Teddy, take it to the bridge." He's talking about Teddy Riley, who was the main person behind Rex and Effect, and then later on Blackstreet, and he produced it for other people too. I think he did something with Michael Jackson, and like, so he's a big influence on me because I like all the stuff that he's ever done, and so like my influences come from a great many people. I'm into old synths and synth players, and like, you know, Herbie Hancock, Giorgio Moroder, and Wendy Carlos. So yeah, all these became influences on me, and that's what I started to create. Is trying to just take from them, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.